My fiancé's fragile, innocent-looking cousin led a group of elite noblewomen to kick down the guest room door, eager to nail me, the Grand Tutor's legitimate daughter, to the wall for adultery. But when the heavy pink curtains were violently thrown back, the women ready to mock me froze as if struck by lightning. Their faces turned ashen. I wasn't in that messy bed. Instead, my perfect fiancé, the Marquise's heir, was hopelessly entangled with the most famous male opera star in the capital. Pulling my winter cloak tighter, I stepped out from behind the crowd, admiring my cousin's instantly pale face. I smiled with the utmost gentleness. "Did you go to all this trouble just to invite these ladies to watch my Lord Fiancé's scandalous performance? Hey, my beautiful besties, welcome back." A sickly, fragile noblewoman watches her fiancé's cousin march 30 socialites toward a room to publicly destroy her, except when they kick down the door. It is her fiancé tangled up with the city's most famous male opera star, and she planned every single second of it. Let's go. Moments earlier, Su Wanru, the delicate cousin of my fiancé Gu Chengyan, had marched toward the East Wing with an army of capital socialites in tow. Even from a distance, I could see the corners of her mouth twitching upward. She walked briskly, determined to ruin my reputation once and for all at the Marquis of Genuine's birthday banquet. Creak, the heavy carved wooden door was shoved open. The noblewomen, who had their gasps and gossip ready, looked past the layers of sheer red curtains toward the grand canopy bed. Suddenly, it was as if someone had hit the pause button. They froze. The bed was a chaotic mess, but the bodies intertwined on the mattress weren't me and some secret lover. It was the Marquise's golden boy, Gu Chengyan, and Liu Yunsheng, the capital's most sought-after male theatrical performer. I pulled my snowfox cloak snugly over my shoulders and peeked out from behind the crowd, wearing a perfectly crafted look of confusion. "Ladies, what is going on? Why is everyone gathered in the draftway?" Hearing my voice, Su Wanru whipped her head around as if she'd seen a ghost. All the color drained from her face, and her trembling finger pointed right at me. "You Luo Qingwan, how are you here? Weren't you supposed to be in?" "I am afraid I don't follow, Miss Su." I covered my mouth with a silk handkerchief and coughed delicately, the very picture of innocence. I felt a bit dizzy during the banquet, so I went to the side hall to rest. When I came to, I saw the ladies rushing this way and worried something had happened to the estate, so I followed. By now, the half-open bed curtains revealed enough of the absurd scene to the eagle-eyed matriarchs. Gu Chengyan and the actor were half-dressed, still clearly under the influence of whatever cheap aphrodisiac had been used. The ladies gasped, clamping their handkerchiefs over their eyes and turning away, faces burning red. A few unmarried girls shrieked and fled straight into the courtyard. "Wait, that voice, is that the heir apparent on the bed?" Someone in the crowd whispered the explosive question. Lady Wang, the Marchioness of Genuine, stopped dead in her tracks. Not even her thick makeup could hide her deathly pallor. She clutched her chest, heaving as if she might pass out right then and there. Following the crowd's gaze, I took a difficult look inside. Upon seeing the two men in such a compromising position, I took a deep breath, channeled every ounce of acting skill I possessed, rolled my eyes back, and collapsed backward like a fragile autumn leaf. Honestly, I would have loved to stay standing, eat some popcorn, and watch this family drama unfold, but my reputation in the capital was that of a sickly, fragile girl who couldn't handle the slightest shock. If I didn't faint on the spot after seeing my fiancé with another man, I wouldn't be staying in character. "Qingwan, my mother," Lady Luo cried out, catching me perfectly alongside my maid. Qingdai, chaos erupted. My mother and several allied noblewomen ordered the servants to carry me back to the side hall and screamed for a doctor right on cue. Marquis Gu arrived. Stepping into the inner courtyard, he was greeted by this unfiltered disaster. The veins on his forehead popped, his authoritative face twisting into pure, unadulterated rage. His roar nearly blew the roof off. "Summon and get me 2 buckets of ice water. Wake this ungrateful son and this worthless actor up." Seeing the Marquise's thunderous fury, the crowd tactfully retreated to the courtyard. They were dying of curiosity, but they knew they had to give the Marquise a shred of dignity splash. 2 buckets of freezing well water, complete with ice shards, were dumped over the bed. The two men screamed and scrambled apart, waking up from their haze. The actor, Liu Yunsheng, was the first to regain his senses. Ignoring his disheveled state, he wrapped a robe around himself and crawled off the bed. Still dizzy from the incense, he didn't notice the massive crowd outside. His eyes only caught Lady Wang standing at the front, looking ready to collapse. He dropped to his knees and wailed, "My lady, my sweetheart, my devotion to you is known to the heavens. I swear I have no idea what happened. How did I wake up in the young lord's bed?" Silence, dead. Absolute silence fell over the courtyard. Ivrion thought this was just a scandal about the heir's secret preferences. Nobody expected a cross-generational love triangle. Furious and panicked, Lady Wang pointed a shaking finger at him. "You cheap wretch! Seducing the heir is a crime punishable by death, and now you dare drag the lady of the house down with you." It was only then that Yunsheng realized the courtyard was packed with the capital's elite. Deciding he had nothing left to lose, he began to weep loudly. "You say I am dragging you down. Have you forgotten all those romantic afternoons we spent drinking tea and listening to operas together?" Marquise Gu was trembling with rage, kicking over a nearby flower stand. Seeing her husband's murderous glare, Lady Wang denied it to the grave, dropping to her knees and crying to the heavens. "My lord, you must believe me. I have no idea what this madman is talking about. I merely enjoyed his singing. There was absolutely nothing improper. But everyone in the capital knew Lady Wang loved patronizing handsome actors. Yunsheng's specific claims left a lot to the imagination. Knowing he was likely a dead man walking, Yunsheng decided to take everyone down with him. He suddenly spun around and pointed straight at Su Wanru, who was hiding in the back of the crowd. It was her, the Marchioness's distant niece, Su Wanru. She paid me 1,000 taels of silver to come perform today. And didn't you, my lady, hold my hand and praise Miss Ashu for being so sensible? Didn't you say you despised the sickly daughter of the Grand Tutor? Why are you turning your backs on me now?" Su Wanru never expected the actor to throw her under the bus in front of everyone. Her knees gave out. Just as she opened her mouth to defend herself, Yunsheng cut her off, bowing deeply to the crowd. "I may be of low status, but every word I speak is the truth. The Marquise's estate despised the tutor's daughter and deliberately plotted to ruin her innocence. I am willing to sign a confession." The crowd gasped. Grand Tutor Luo held no military power, but he had been the teacher of 3 generations of emperors. His students were everywhere, and he was notoriously protective of his family. With this actor's testimony, the old tutor would risk his life to beg the emperor to annul the marriage. Slumped on the ground, Su Wanru's eyes flashed with pure terror as her scheme crumbled. If the emperor revoked the marriage edict and Gu Chengyan's reputation was ruined, her dream of becoming a glamorous noble wife was dead. "Shut this liar's mouth and throw him in the dungeon." Marquise Gu barked at his guards. He then turned to the crowd, forcing a painfully stiff smile. "I apologize for the spectacle today. My household has been too lenient. It's windy out here, please. Return to the front hall for tea. Technically, this was family business, and outsiders shouldn't interfere. But this involved the beloved daughter of the Grand Tutor." The crowd held their breath, stealing glances at my father standing by the corridor. As the guards moved to grab Yunsheng, my father finally moved, with a cold expression and the unyielding spine of a lifelong scholar. He stepped forward, radiating an aura of sheer authority. "Hold on, this actor stays with me." Duke Xiao, who was on good terms with the Marquis, but deeply respected my father, stepped in as the peacemaker. "Brother Gu, this is your family matter, and we shouldn't overstep. But since it involves Tutor Luo's daughter, you two should sort it out behind closed doors. We'll head to the front hall." Given an out, the guests practically sprinted away from the disaster zone. Once the outsiders were gone, Gu Chengyan finally snapped out of his daze. Wrapped in a messy coat, he limped out of the room with a highly unnatural, awkward gait, not daring to meet anyone's eyes. Marquise Gu stared at his golden child and roared, "You animal, get on your knees." Gu Chengyan fell to his knees, his jaw clenched inside. He was blaming me for everything, cursing that manipulative Luo Qingwan for causing him such humiliation. "Today is your birthday, my lord." I shouldn't dictate how you handle your son and this actor, my father said, his voice dripping with ice. But since your estate looks down on my daughter so much that you'd use such filthy tactics to ruin her, I will go to the palace tomorrow. I will tell the emperor exactly what happened and beg him to rescind the marriage. As for this actor, he is a witness. I am taking him. Lady Wang panicked and crawled forward. Tutor Luo, please calm down. Actors are natural liars. He is just spouting nonsense to save his life. Someone must be jealous of our alliance and hired him to tear us apart. Fine, he can stay here, my father sneered. His eyes filled with unfiltered disdain as they swept over Gu Chengyan's awkward posture. But if he stops breathing tonight, I'll assume the Marquis's estate murdered him to cover their tracks. By the way, my lord heir, are you finding it difficult to walk right now? Marquis Gu and his son froze. The truth didn't even matter anymore. Gu Chengyan was now permanently branded with the scandalous reputation of preferring men. I am perfectly fine. Gu Chengyan, spoiled rotten his whole life, still didn't grasp the gravity of the situation. Wanru and I are truly in love anyway. It was your Luo family that shamelessly clung to us. Shut up, you fool. Marquis Gu, terrified out of his mind, kicked his son to the ground. My father mocked them ruthlessly. How romantic. What a pity this marriage was personally decreed by His Majesty. Your estate's intense dissatisfaction and willingness to frame my daughter makes it seem like you harbour resentment toward the Emperor's edict. Accused of defying the throne, Marquis Zhu broke out in a cold sweat. Huddled in the corner, Su Wanru bit her lip, trying to make herself invisible. My father stood tall, his voice booming. My daughter has always been fragile. After suffering such humiliation, she is unconscious. If she survives this ordeal, I will only ask for an annulment to save face. But if she suffers any lasting harm, simply taking back the edict won't be the end of this. Right on cue, my maid Qingdai stumbled out of the side hall, sobbing hysterically. Master, madam, it is terrible, miss. She was so furious she coughed up blood. Everyone gasped. My father swayed, pretending to nearly collapse, supported by his servants as he rushed toward the side hall. Knowing they had caused a catastrophic disaster, the Marquis and his family had no choice but to follow. Inside the side hall, I lay on the bed, my face as pale as paper, a shocking streak of fake blood at the corner of my lips. My eyes were shut tight, my breathing shallow. The estate's doctor knelt by the bed, wiping his sweat and trembling. Tutor Luo, the young lady, was already born with a weak constitution. The extreme shock and humiliation caused her blood and qi to reverse, leading to this collapse. I will prescribe some calming medicine, but she will need premium ginseng to sustain her life, and it will take 3 to 5 years to recover. Otherwise, her lifespan may be affected. Hearing this, my mother threw herself by the bed, weeping bitterly. My poor Qingwan, if I had known, I never would have brought you to this cursed banquet. The remaining noblewomen stepped forward to comfort her, not hiding their absolute disgust for the Marquis's family, however, with my eyes closed, playing dead. My mind was as cool as ice. Of course I wasn't sick. That blood was a special theatrical pill I had prepared before the banquet. Biting it looked incredibly realistic. Sure, the medicine would make me slightly dizzy for a couple of days, but compared to marrying into this toxic wasteland of a family, it was a small price to pay. The show was over. My parents coldly ordered the servants to carry me to our carriage and left without another word. The remaining guests, feeling the unbearable tension, quickly made their excuses and fled. Once the massive gates of the Marquis's estate slammed shut, the real storm began. In the main hall of the estate, the atmosphere was suffocating. Marquis Gu sat in the center, his face dark as a thundercloud. Kneeling in a row on the cold stone floor were Lady Wang, Gu Chengyan, Su Wanru, and the tightly bound actor, Liu Yunsheng. Speak, Marquis Gu commanded, his voice carrying a terrifying pressure, his eyes sliced into his wife like knives. What other filthy secrets have you been hiding behind my back? Lady Wang crawled forward, her hair dishevelled. My lord, I swear I only enjoyed listening to operas. I don't know who gave this lowly actor the nerve to cause trouble and frame me. Frame you, Yunsheng, despite being bound, let out a cold laugh. Has my lady forgotten how you held my hand last night complaining about how lonely you were? If you don't believe me, my lord, send your most trusted maid to check. Is your wife currently wearing a red camisole embroidered with twin lotus flowers? And does she have a small nail-sized red birthmark on her right waist? Lady Wang looked as if her soul had left her body. She collapsed, shivering violently. Gu Changyan stared at his mother in disbelief, then screamed at Yunsheng. You lying dog, how dare you insult my mother's honor? Father, draw your sword and kill him. Marquis Gu ignored his son. With a blank expression, he signaled his personal nanny to take Lady Wang into the back room. A few minutes later, the nanny returned, her face pale, and gave the Marquis a slow nod. It was all true, Smash. The Marquis threw his priceless teacup at Lady Wang's feet. The shattered porcelain cut her forehead, fighting the urge to commit murder. Marquis glared at Yunsheng. You said earlier that Su Wanru paid you. Yunsheng nodded. Yes. Not only did she pay me, but she also promised that if I ruined the tutor's daughter today, she would reward me handsomely once she became the heir's wife. Su Wanru immediately burst into tears, looking pitiful. Uncle, please, I only invited him to please Auntie. I am just a powerless orphan. How would I dare plot against the Grand Tutor's daughter? This actor is just biting anyone he can to save himself. Seeing his sweetheart cry, Gu Chengyan's heart broke, and he begged for her. Father Wanru is pure and kind. She would never do this. It's all that venomous snake, Luo Qingwan's fault. She must have figured it out and turned the tables on me, and Mother must have been mind-controlled by this actor's drugs. Pure and kind, Yunxing laughed like a maniac. It was Miss Sue's maid who led me to the East Wing. She told me the Marchioness wanted to reward me privately. How was I supposed to know that when I opened the door, the heir apparent would pounce on me like a dog in heat? Fools, a pack of useless fools! Marquis Gu laughed out of pure rage, pointing at his ruined family. You've lived so comfortably you actually thought you owned the capital. Please, my lord, calm down. They whimpered on the floor. Calm down. What good is calming down now? The Marquis kicked his son squarely in the chest. You have no shame and no regard for this family's survival. You put the Grand Tutor's daughter into a coma. Do you think the Luo family will just let this go? How are you going to appease the Emperor's wrath with your severed heads? Only then did the self-proclaimed masterminds realize they had just shattered the sky. Early the next morning, before the sun had even fully risen, the Emperor's edict struck the genuine Marquis estate like an executioner's blade. The Emperor was furious. He decreed that Marquis Gu had failed to govern his household and stripped him of his salary for a year, confining him to the estate for 3 months. Lady Wang Gu Chengyan and Su Wanru, accused of mocking imperial authority and defying moral bounds, were each sentenced to 20 strikes of the heavy cane. The actor, Liu Yunsheng, was officially branded a criminal and sentenced to penal servitude. But most importantly, the marriage edict between the Jiyu and Luo families was immediately annulled. Simultaneously, the tutor's estate received the annulment edict. To comfort my father, the Emperor sent a lavish stream of rare medicinal herbs and premium bloodbird's nest soup. Me father, the Grand Tutor, was highly respected among the capital's scholars. Knowing they were entirely in the wrong, the Marquis's estate practically crawled to our door, sending their head steward with expensive apologies and a grovelling letter. My father didn't even blink. He ordered the gifts thrown back out into the street. As for the letter, he tossed it into the fire in front of their steward, letting it turn to ash. Back in the cosy warmth of my pavilion, I lounged on a daybed, leisurely sipping the Emperor's bird's nest soup. My maid, Qingdai, vividly described just how brutally the Marquis's family had taken their 20 strikes, and I couldn't help but smile. Thank goodness you are so clever, miss, Qingdai said indignantly, massaging my legs. That family isn't just corrupt, they're purely malicious. If you hadn't been careful, their disgusting plot would have destroyed your life. When the marriage edict first came down, Gu Chengyan brought his precious, pathetic little cousin here to discuss the wedding, treating me like a dying burden the whole time. I sneered, toying with my gold hand warmer. They thought they were so smart, playing everyone else for fools, without realizing they were the ones on the chopping block. My fragile health was famous in the capital. The emperor had arranged this marriage purely to balance the power between the scholars and the military. But Gu Chengyan and Su Wanru, with their absolute lack of brain cells, thought they could use aphrodisiacs and an actor to ruin me and force an annulment. Did they really think the Grand Tutor's daughter was easy prey? Since they played dirty, I played dirtier. If someone had to lose their innocence to an actor, I decided Gu Chengyan could enjoy the privilege. I just hadn't expected the bonus plot twist. Lu Yunsheng was ruthless enough to drag the Marchioness down too, saving me the trouble of setting a second fire. "Is everything arranged for Lu Yunsheng?" I asked softly. Qingdai lowered her voice. "Don't worry, miss. We bribed the guards escorting him. We've set up a fake death, new travel papers, and plenty of silver for him. Yunsheng is a tragic soul, really. He only sang to support his younger sister. But Lady Wang's nephew kidnapped and ruined the poor girl, and she hung herself out of shame. He infiltrated the Marquise's estate entirely to destroy Lady Wang." I lowered my eyes, tracing the intricate design of my nail guards. Karma always collects its debts. I thought the annulment would be the end of it, but I severely underestimated the sheer audacity and desperation of these people. Within 3 days, a wild rumor swept through the capital. The gossip mills claimed that I, the tutor's daughter, was so madly in love with Gu Chengyan that I was willing to marry him regardless. According to the rumor, I didn't faint from anger, refainted because I was so heartbroken by his affair. To save the last shred of his family's dignity, Marquis Gu had suppressed the truth about his wife and the actor, claiming Yunsheng had been bribed to lie, so the public only knew that the heir slept with an actor, but they didn't know Gu Chengyan was the one on the receiving end. When I heard the rumor, I actually laughed out loud. What a pathetic attempt at spin control. They wanted to step on my reputation to whitewash theirs. If the Marquise's estate wanted to throw away their dignity, I'd gladly rip it off and stomp it into the mud. I immediately had Qingdai take solid gold bars to the best storytellers in the capital's tea houses and taverns. Within half a day, a new tale titled The Twin Lotuses and the Wild Swans took the city by storm. It didn't use real names, but anyone with a pulse knew exactly who it was about. "Did you hear? That Marquise's heir was caught rolling in the sheets with an actor at his own father's birthday bash." A storyteller slammed his wooden block in a crowded tea house, sending the crowd into an uproar. "I know, and the poor, sickly daughter of the tutor caught them red-handed and coughed up blood, who wouldn't pass out seeing their fiancé Fay in bed with another man. And yet some idiots are spreading rumors that she collapsed out of love. What a joke. No wonder the emperor was furious, took back the marriage, and handed out beatings. It is downright unnatural." "Heh, you only know half the story," a patron whispered loudly from the corner. "The apple doesn't fall far from the tree before sleeping with the sun. That actor had already conquered the mother. Word is, she was wearing a bright red camisole when they caught her. Good heavens, the Marquis actually swallowed a green hat cuckoldry. That massive. What else could he do? Nobles care about face more than life. And get this, the one who invited the actor was the heir's freeloading cousin. She wanted to suck up to the mother, but the actor ended up servicing 2 generations of the family. Serves them right. That cousin was scheming to become the heir's wife anyway. Know that the family's reputation is in the gutter. Let's see who'd ever marry a toxic jinx like her." The rumors spread like wildfire, striking the Marquise's estate right where it hurt most. I didn't even need to defend myself. The public spit alone was enough to drown them. Meanwhile, the Qingwan estate felt like a graveyard. Listening to his spies report the street gossip, Marquis Gu smashed the armrest of his wooden chair, glaring furiously at Lady Wang and Su Wanru, who were currently having medicine applied to their caned wounds. "Speak, who ordered the servants to spread that idiotic rumor about Luo Qingwan being madly in love with Chengyan?" Lady Wang lay on the couch, deathly pale, too terrified to speak. The Marquise's gaze locked onto Su Wanru like a poisoned blade. "She'd die before marrying anyone else. Do you hear how laughable that sounds? The tutor's family represents the moral elite of this city. They're dying to cut ties with us. Did you think they were stupid enough to ruin their own daughter to spread a rumor like that? Gu Chengyan, whose backside had been beaten to a pulp, lay on a stretcher, still stubbornly defending her. Father, I am perfectly worthy of her. It must be that venomous Luo Qingwan. She is manipulative and probably started the rumor herself too. Slap. Marquis Gu backhanded his son so hard that Gu Chengyan's lips split open, bleeding instantly. Your mother has completely ruined you. Go out to the streets and listen to what they're saying. Our family's name is garbage. Whoever did this, confess now, or I will beat every servant in this courtyard to death. Terrified, Su Wanru's maids threw themselves at the Marquis's feet. Mercy, my lord. It was the madam and the cousin. They ordered us to spread the rumor, saying if they tied Miss Luo's reputation to the heirs, the tutor wouldn't dare actually cancel the wedding. Gu Chengyan froze, staring at Su Wanru in disbelief. Impossible, Wanru loves me. Mother was just trying to help. They wouldn't use such disgusting tactics. Marquis Gu let out a hollow laugh, looking at his son as if looking at a corpse. Trying to help, the emperor just issued an edict to cancel the wedding, and they immediately spread rumors to slap the emperor in the face. Your mother is a cheat, and your precious cousin used you to climb the ladder. Give it time, and she'd probably cheat on you just like your mother did to me. All the color vanished from Su Wanru's face. Marquis Gu closed his eyes, his voice heavy with despair. Tutor Luo has the emperor's favor. If you had just behaved, we could have used their clean reputation to protect our family's wealth for generations. The emperor was already suspicious of my military power, and you just handed him the blade to execute us all. Looking at his foolish, doomed family, Marquis Gu could no longer suppress the pressure in his chest. He coughed up a massive mouthful of blood and collapsed backward, unconscious. While their estate descended into chaos, I was leisurely reviewing account books at home. Hearing the latest updates, I felt the winter fire crackle with exceptional warmth. But my good mood didn't last. Qingdai rushed in, looking completely bewildered. Miss that shameless Gu Chengyan. He is at our front gates causing a scene. Outside the heavy red doors of the tutor's estate, Gu Chengyan had ignored his severe injuries and forced his servants to carry him over in a palanquin. His eyes were bloodshot. Ignoring the pointing and whispering crowd, he screamed at the top of his lungs. Luo Qingwan, come out! I know you are just jealous of Wanru and acting out. If you take back the annulment, I'll still save the seat of the primary wife for you. Before he could finish, the captain of our guards stormed out with a dozen burly men wielding heavy wooden staffs. Striking the staffs against the cobblestones, the captain roared, "Shut your mouth! Who gave a degenerate like you the right to scream my lady's name? The imperial edict has been given. The marriage is void. If you keep causing trouble, we'll beat you out of this street." Veins popped on Gu Chengyan's forehead. "You lowly slave, you dare threaten the heir of a marquis." The captain sneered. "You spread vile rumors to ruin my lady's reputation. What is the difference between you and a street thug? And we throw thugs out with the trash." The crowd was growing larger by the minute, their whispers turning into loud mocking. Gu Chengyan, spoiled his whole life, had never faced such humiliation. His face turned purple, but the guards' weapons kept him at bay. Just then, a fragile figure stepped out from behind the palanquin. It was Su Wanru, barely able to walk but still forcing herself to perform. She dropped to her knees at the bottom of our grand staircase, the very picture of a tragic heroine. "I know Miss Luo hates me," she wept loudly. "You were afraid I'd steal the heir's love. It's all my fault, please. Just don't punish the heir for my mistakes." Creak, the side door of our estate opened. Qingdai walked out holding a basin of dirty water we'd just used to wash our hands. Hearing Su Wanru's nauseating performance, she didn't even put the basin down. "What kind of pathetic play is this?" Qingdai shouted. "You are a shameless distant relative, kneeling outside our gates like some secret mistress begging for entry." It was a lethal insult. The crowd erupted into laughter, and a few bold women started pointing fingers at Su Wanru. "Look at her, an unmarried girl meddling in her cousin's marriage. They've probably been sleeping together for years." "Exactly. The emperor cancelled the wedding, and the emperor ordered the beatings. Where do they get the nerve to harass the tutor's family? I heard the storyteller say she was the one who brought the actor in, and then the actor serviced the son. She caused the mess, and now she's crying here. Unable to maintain her innocent facade against the brutal mocking of the crowd, Su Wanru gritted her teeth in humiliation. You cheap maid. I am just a powerless orphan. I wouldn't dare disrespect the tutor's family." Splash! Qingdai slammed the basin onto the ground, splashing the filthy water all over Su Wanru's dress. "Wouldn't dare," Qingdai sneered. "When the emperor first announced the engagement, the heir brought you to discuss the wedding. He told my lady that, if it weren't for the emperor, he wouldn't even look at her. And you acted like the lady of the house, bragging about how deeply in love you two were." Qingdai turned to the crowd, raising her voice. "Listen to this, everyone. My lady has been sickly since birth. If she married into a toxic, depraved family like theirs, becoming a wife in name only, wouldn't these two psychopaths torture her to death?" Her words ignited the crowd's fury. "Spit on them! What a disgusting pair! Caught with a man at a party and still has the nerve to yell outside a girl's house. Get out of here." Summoning threw a rotting cabbage leaf, hitting Gu Chengyan right in the face. Soon rotten eggs and garbage rained down on them. Unable to defend themselves, the two scrambled back into the palanquin like beaten dogs and fled. When Marquis Gu woke up and heard what happened, he nearly coughed up blood again. He immediately ordered Gu Chengyan dragged to the ancestral shrine and given the harshest family beating, leaving him half dead. He then forced Lady Wang and Su Wanru to kneel in the freezing shrine for 3 days and 3 nights. But this was only the beginning. 3 days later, the drum of justice outside the capital central court was beaten loudly. Several citizens jointly sued Lady Wang's maiden family. The accusations were severe, relying on the Marquis's power to kidnap women, steal farmland, and murder innocent people. They had hard evidence. At the same time, I received a final letter from Lu Yunsheng, burn jade and stone together. No regrets. Qingdai sighed as she read the 8 characters. "He's so stubborn. We gave him an escape route. Why did he have to take it this far? As the primary whistleblower, he'll have to endure a severe beating just to file the case. He got his revenge, destroying his enemy's wife and son. But at his core, he is a proud scholar," I said, holding the letter to the candle flame and watching it burn. "He feels his methods were dirty, and he can't live with the guilt. Besides, with his sister dead, he has nothing left to live for. He just wants mutual destruction." The political winds in the capital had officially shifted. Marquis Gu was a ruthless realist. When he realized his wife's family was doomed, and that the emperor was using this to target him, he made a brutal choice to save his own bloodline. He personally delivered a letter of divorce, throwing Lady Wang out of the estate. More shockingly, in front of the family elders, he permanently struck Gu Chengyan's name from the family registry. Hair dishevelled, Lady Wang clung to the Marquis's robes in the shrine, screaming, "My lord, I admit my mistakes, but Chengyan is your legitimate son. How can you abandon him?" Gu Chengyan looked horrified. "Father, I had nothing to do with my uncle's crimes. You can't leave me." Su Wanru slumped in the corner, paralyzed by absolute despair. Marquis Gu kicked Lady Wang away. "You didn't kill anyone yourselves, but you covered for them. You used my power to hide their crimes. While I was bleeding on the battlefield to protect this country, you were slaughtering its people." He looked past them, toward a run-down courtyard in the back of the estate. "I have another son. I failed the woman you forced into that courtyard, but I have never failed you 2 vipers." Lady Wang's head snapped up. "You're going to elevate that cheap mistress and her bastard son." Smack. One of the Marquis's guards backhanded her, knocking out 2 of her teeth. "Silence! A divorced criminal dares disrespect the future lady of the house." Gu Chengyan and Su Wanru's faces went dead. They had schemed their entire lives, only to hand the prize to someone else. The emperor moved swiftly. As a witness, Lu Yunsheng confessed everything in court, not just the murders committed by Lady Wang's family, but also Su Wanru's plot to drug me, which backfired onto the heir. The final verdict was absolute. The heads of Lady Wang's family were executed immediately, and their wealth was confiscated. Lady Wang and Gu Chengyan were exiled to the freezing wasteland of Ninguta for life, with no chance of pardon. Su Wanru was exiled with them for framing an official's daughter. Marquise Gu was spared the death penalty for turning them in, but the emperor seized his military command tokens, reducing him to a wealthy but powerless nobleman. As for Lu Yunsheng, the emperor noted his tragic circumstances and spared his life. He even issued a fascinating verbal decree: "Live well if you dare commit suicide. I will dig up your sister's grave and scatter her ashes." The emperor has only been on the throne for 3 years, but his political maneuvering is flawless. My father sighed in his study. I knew it too. The emperor had known about Lady Wang's family for years, but held off because he needed Marquise Yu for war. His decision to marry me to Gu Chengyan was a deliberate test to pressure both our families. The Marquise understood. My father understood. Only Gu Chengyan and his mother were stupid enough to fall for it. After the dust settled, my father went to the palace. Using my severe trauma as an excuse, he tearfully begged the emperor for permission to retire. He stated that he no longer wanted a high-status marriage for his daughter, but merely wished to find a live-in son-in-law to take care of me. Seeing that my father knew his place, the emperor happily agreed, rewarding him with gold and allowing our family to leave the capital far from the political bloodbaths. We settled in a quiet, beautiful manor in the southern water towns. My father opened a private school, my mother spent her days gardening, and I dropped the sickly act entirely. I spent my days farming, fishing, and living a carefree life. Occasionally, traveling merchants brought news from the capital. Lady Wang, used to a life of luxury, caught a fever during the first blizzard of her exile and died quietly in an abandoned temple. Gu Chengyan and Su Wanru were forced to do brutal manual labor in Ninguta. Their true love vanished in the face of suffering. They cursed each other daily until, during a violent argument, Gu Chengyan pushed Su Wanru. She hit her head on a stone mill. Before her skull shattered, her eyes went wide, and she muttered in delirium, "Impossible. I am the reborn chosen one. Luo Qingwan was supposed to be ruined." Gu Chengyan was whipped to death in the snow by the guards for committing murder and resisting arrest. As for the Marquise's illegitimate son, he proved exceptional. He passed the imperial exams with top honors and slowly rebuilt the family's reputation through honest work. Liu Yunsheng never sang again. He opened a pastry shop on the outskirts of the capital, selling only the flavors his late sister loved. As for me, to my father's absolute shock, Duke Xiao, who rarely interacted with us, traveled all the way south with thick skin, asking my father for my hand in marriage. Or rather, he begged to let his second son, Xiao Jingchen, marry into our family, and the emperor actually approved it. At first we were baffled. Xiao Jingchen was the capital's most notorious troublemaker. One day he'd blow up a minister's fish pond. The next he'd burn down a general's stables. Why would the Duke send this menace to our house? It wasn't until 6 months after the wedding, when I had completely tamed this wild stallion, that the Duke sent a boatload of gifts, weeping in gratitude for my ability to subdue the demon. On our wedding night, the red candles flickered. My father couldn't resist asking my new husband through the window, "Jingchen, I don't understand. My daughter is famous for being sickly. Why were you so certain she could handle a wild monkey like you?" Xiao Jingchen lounged on the bed, massaging my shoulders, and smiled mischievously. "Father-in-law, you might not know this, but that fake blood pill Qingwan used to stage her collapse at the banquet. She bought it from a black market pharmacy that I own." Outside, my father gasped and stumbled away, muttering, "I see, what a disaster." Inside, I gritted my teeth. If I had known he owned that shady shop, I would have bought my fake blood somewhere else. Reading my mind, Jingchen leaned in close. His warm breath brushed my neck, his voice a perfect mix of cunning and affection. "Don't overthink it, darling. My shop is the only one in the capital that makes blood pills that realistic. I've had my eye on you ever since." Furious, I pinched his waist hard. He didn't flinch. Instead, he pulled me into his arms, smiling like a fox that had just caught a very clever rabbit. He whispered, "Ouch, I love it when you play rough, madam. If you are still angry, you are more than welcome to punishes me tonight." I blushed and pushed him away. The years flowed by peacefully. Life with him in the south was sweet. To spare me the dangers of childbirth, this notorious troublemaker, who hated bitter medicine more than anything, secretly drank a potion to make himself sterile. He said that besides me, no one else was worthy of his attention. On a warm spring day, I lounged in a rocking chair in the courtyard, checking the school's accounts. A few feet away, Jingchen was battling my father in a game of chess, their bickering echoing through the air. This life, getting revenge, leaving the toxic court behind, and wasting away the years with a soul that truly matched mine. It was perfect. I am cackling that ending, Xiao Jingchen casually revealing he knew about her fake blood pill from day one because she bought it from his black market pharmacy, and he has been watching her ever since. The man fell in love with her scheming. Not despite it, because of it. That is the energy we deserve. The moment that hit me hardest was the framing itself, not because it was shocking, but because of how perfectly Luo Qingwan understood the system she was trapped in. She couldn't just refuse the marriage. The emperor decreed it. She couldn't expose Zhu Chengyan's affair because who would believe the sickly girl over the golden air? So she did something brilliant. She let her enemies execute their own plan, but redirected the target. They set the trap for her. She simply made sure the wrong person fell into it. She didn't need to be powerful. She just needed to be smarter than people who underestimated her. Which, honestly, wasn't hard. Okay, Elena's cultural corner. Today, I want to talk about the concept of strategic fragility, playing weak as a survival tool for women in imperial China, because Qingwan's entire persona is built on it, and it has deep cultural roots. In Confucian society, the ideal woman was described with 4 virtues: morality, proper speech, modest appearance, and diligent work. But underneath these expectations lived an unspoken truth, a woman who appeared too capable, too sharp, too healthy. Too ambitious was seen as threatening. She attracted jealousy from other women, suspicion from men, and political targeting from rivals. So many elite women cultivated deliberate fragility. They emphasized their delicate health, their soft voices, their inability to handle stress. This wasn't weakness, it was armor. A woman who looked like she might collapse at any moment was not seen as a political threat. No one schemes against someone they believe is already dying. Qingwan weaponized this brilliantly. Her sickly constitution was famous across the capital. Everyone, including her enemies, believed she was too fragile to fight back. So when she fainted at the banquet, no one questioned it. When her father claimed she coughed up blood from shock, the entire court believed it because it matched the story they'd always been told. Her weakness was so convincing that it became her most powerful shield. And here is the genius. The faker, the fragility, the more real it became politically. The doctor's diagnosis, 3 to 5 years to recover, gave her father the perfect excuse to demand consequences. A healthy woman being embarrassed is gossip. A dying woman being traumatized is a crime. By performing collapse, she escalated the offense from social awkwardness to attempted harm against a vulnerable person. She turned her fake weakness into real legal leverage. For my Western girlies, think of it like the Regency-era swoon. In Bridgerton, when a woman faints at a ball, suddenly every man in the room is scrambling to help, and whoever caused the faint looks like a monster. It is social weaponry disguised as helplessness. Qingwan didn't just faint, she made sure 30 witnesses saw exactly who put her in that position. She collapsed so gracefully that the entire imperial court decided her fiancé's family deserved punishment. That is not weakness, that is a performance. So flawless it rewrote reality. The difference is that in Qingwan's world, this wasn't optional. She couldn't march into court and present evidence. She couldn't file for divorce. She couldn't publicly accuse a marquise's son without being called jealous or hysterical. The only power available to her was the power of appearing powerless, and she wielded it like a blade hidden in silk. If you want to review today's cultural tea, all the aesthetic notes are in the description box below. And Queen's Xiao Jingchen fell in love with her the moment he realized she was faking. He saw through the performance and thought, that is the one. Has anyone ever loved you more for being clever instead of less? Tell me in the comments. Love you all. See you next time, my beautifully strategic queens.